Welcome to Between Views. Today we're incredibly excited to bring you the remarkable story of Evan O'Hanlon, a Paralympic athlete whose life journey is nothing short of inspiring. Evan, who was born with cerebral palsy, shares his journey to become a multi-gold medalist Paralympic athlete. You'll hear about his surprising venture into bobsledding, driven by a love for adrenaline, and his eye-opening experiences in the Paralympic village. Join us to uncover Evan's philosophies on pushing limits, continuous learning, and finding new purpose beyond sport. Evan O'Hanlon, welcome to Between Views. When we begin our episodes on Between Views, we always start with the same thing, and it's typically how we met, how we came to actually come into contact, and why we're hearing your story. So the way that Evan and I met was I actually got an opportunity from some South African friends that I have to distribute a coffee product. I went in one day, dropped off my number there, it was on a piece of paper, and then you happened to be the only store that called back.
So you met my wife, obviously, because she runs our cafe, Sidetrack Coffee in Merriweather.
I have.
And then we met because I hang around at the cafe and taste test everything, make sure it's not poison for everyone.
That's right. And you happened to be there that day as well. And we got to talking when I dropped in the second time, and found out that you are a Paralympic athlete.
Yeah.
And that you have had quite a lot of success in that area as well.
In a past life, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously life has taken its changes and turns, and you're a dad now and you're going through all of those sort of things. But I just want to say welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on, and I feel quite curious to hear about your journey and how you got to where you were. And one thing about Between Views, whether you know it or not, is one of my original inspirations was coaching. So it's kind of like the idea of that mentors come into your life and they can teach you many things. But I'm realizing everyone can be a mentor. But when you've got a story like yours, I think that there's some amazing things that I can learn from you while we talk together today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I just wanted to say, yes, obviously everyone looks at athletes in general, Paralympic athletes, and they think, well, you've got an amazing story, but pretty much everyone has a story, and it's just getting it out of them. Ours is just on show all the time. And then because we talk about it a lot, we can express what we've learnt across that probably more eloquently than some people, just because we've had to think about it. People always come up and say, oh wow, it must be amazing to be an athlete. Yeah. That used to happen during my career as an athlete all the time, and I go, wow, actually you sit in an office all day, can you tell me what you do? Right? I was just
to get
as
the
intrigued.
Contrast.
Yeah, right? It's just what you don't do is interesting to you, because you don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, do you think we could start with your story of how you became an athlete? Where did it begin? Where did it take you? Did it end?
So we'll go back in time to when I was born, and I have to be a little bit careful when I explain this, because I explain it so many times. I sound like a bit of a recorder, so I have to pause a little bit to make sure people can catch up and I'm not sounding like a robot. I was born with cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is an umbrella term, and they use it to describe anything that causes brain damage either in the first 2 years of your life or before you were born.
Okay.
Because of that, there's thousands of different ways you can get cerebral palsy, because it is just brain damage, right? There's, as an example, your mother could have rubella whilst you were still in utero.
Okay.
And there's from my very unscientific understanding, there's some kind of reaction that happens in the placenta between the two bloods when there's rubella in there, and that can cause clotting in the fetus's blood system, and that ends up causing cerebral palsy because you get a stroke. You could be born with severe jaundice, which is, heaps of people are born with jaundice, which you're just born a bit yellow because you have a lack of vitamin D. That severe lack of vitamin D, though, would restrict the amount of oxygen that can be carried in the blood, because you need vitamin D, again, from my unmedical knowledge, you need vitamin D to help the hemoglobin be able to carry oxygen.
Yep.
So when you don't have that vitamin D, there's not enough oxygen in the system, your brain's not getting enough oxygen, damage. So there's this whole spectrum of how you can get it, and then there's a whole spectrum because of that basically 3-year period, 2 years, 9 months, of when you can get it, that damage, cerebral palsy becomes such an umbrella term, and it covers a lot of disabilities, or not disabilities because they're all cerebral palsy, but there's that whole spectrum of how you're affected. You can be like me, and I know that the listeners can't hear me, but if I was to walk, they can't see me, sorry, but if I was to walk down the street, you wouldn't know that I have anything wrong with me, right? The first time you met me, you wouldn't have known.
No, not till you said.
Right, and then I show you a few things, and you can see that I have cerebral palsy. The other end of the spectrum is you could be sitting in a wheelchair and needing very intensive care just to do everyday basic things. And there's no telling how any individual will be affected. You can have a small amount of brain damage and end up needing a lot of care, or you could have a large amount of brain damage like I do and be almost unaffected. It just depends on how you got it, when you got it. And I just think I had probably perfect cerebral palsy, in that my damage happened what they think was a stroke, a prenatal stroke, while I was still in utero. I was really active child in utero, and then
You had the stroke? Or
I had a stroke. So I was really active, and then suddenly I didn't move for about 2 weeks, and my mum went to the hospital, hey, there's something wrong. And this is 37 years ago, remember?
Yeah.
Giving away my age. But they did what they could and said, no, they've measured my heart rate and said, no, there's nothing wrong with him, go home. By then I'd obviously slightly recovered enough that I wasn't out of the normal range. So I had a stroke, and I was probably just early enough that I was able to still have so much plasticity in my brain and enough time to what I, kind of name as rewiring before I was in the real world. And also I was old enough that I was able to survive that stroke, because was I any smaller, that stroke may have killed me, right?
Yeah.
So probably like perfect scenario, and that's the outcome that I have where my disability affects me the way it does. My disability affects my whole left side of my body.
Okay.
So I'm cerebral palsy, hemiplegic cerebral palsy, which means, relating to hemispheres.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hemiplegic means I'm one side affected. You can be both legs affected, both arms affected, all four affected. But don't ask me what they're all called.
I was going to ask you what they were all called. That was the question I wanted to ask.
Now I'm showing my medical knowledge, right? I've already said I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, this is not a doctor interview, disclaimer.
I'm just a normal dude trying to live my life and trying to understand what's wrong with me. And so, born with cerebral palsy. They didn't know that I had cerebral palsy when I was born, though. They didn't notice it. I was sent home as a normal child, and I was already had 2 older sisters. I would then have 3 younger sisters in the future, but not yet, obviously. And my parents were obviously busy, didn't notice much was up with me, but I was back in hospital when I was 2 years old. I had pretty severe asthma when I was younger, which is funny because both my wife and I are athletes, or turned out to be athletes.
Yeah.
Both had really severe asthma when we were younger.
Really?
Yeah. So very interesting one. And I know a lot of athletes that are similar. And whilst I was in hospital, just again, really perfect scenario. I was given my dinner or a meal. The doctor came in at the same time, and I was eating the meal in front of him. And I was eating with my right hand, even though I had a big needle in my right hand, because you have your drip in there so they can feed you liquids and stuff. And the doctor pointed it out, and he's like, hey, he's eating with his right hand while there's that needle in there. What's doing? And my mum was, he's right-handed, right? Because you wouldn't really know that is a sign of anything as a parent, as a layperson, not a doctor. And the doctor turned around and said, oh, no, actually at that age, you're not handed, left or right. You just use whatever's more comfortable. And so he was just really switched on. He picked up that I wasn't using my left hand. And then they looked over me a little bit more, and they could see that my left shoulder blade was sticking out like a wing because I hadn't been using it enough. So I hadn't grown enough muscle on my shoulder blade to hold it against the back of my chest. And that was a bit of a giveaway for them. So then they sent me down for scans and they found the damage on my brain that was most likely from the stroke.
Yeah, wow. So it was all because the doctor noted the hand you were using.
Yeah. Right.
Incredible that
so
they can
there's
do.
a lot of lucky things that have happened in my life.
Yeah.
Right from the very beginning, right? Perfect cerebral palsy to end up the way I am. You know, you'd have someone sitting here with more severe cerebral palsy, they're probably going to say their cerebral palsy is perfect as well. We don't know any different.
Okay.
if you're okay with who you are and stuff, you're going to say yours is perfect, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But mine is the way it is, very mildly affected, and just because I'm lucky, and then picked up really early in life because of the doctor. I have a friend who very, very similar cerebral palsy to me. No two people are the same, but very similar, except opposite. She's right side affected, I'm left side affected. And she was 15, I think, and at the Australian Institute of Sport for the junior Australian netball team when she found out that she had cerebral palsy.
She had no idea
right?
until later.
Yeah, and obviously...
And was already out there competing. And
pretty talented athlete as well.
Yeah, wow. So when you are competing, how much does it affect you?
Yeah, so my cerebral palsy affects the whole left side of my body, and I am less coordinated and not as strong on that whole left side. I also have reduced sensation on that side, so hot and cold is reduced, but even things like if there is a crack on the table or a crack in the paint on the wall, and I was to put my right hand on it with closed eyes and feel the wall, I can tell you, and you would be able to do the same, exactly where the crack is. If I go then with my left hand, there's no chance I'm feeling that crack unless it's quite large. My 2-point perception is also down, which is when you close your eyes and someone uses 2 pins or 2 pens to touch your arm, for example, your forearm, you start with them wide apart and you go, that's 2 things. That's 2 things. Am I touching you with 2 things? Yes. Am I touching you with 1 thing? Yes. Am I touching you with 2 things? And you get closer and closer together, asking the same question over and over again. And then at a very wide distance on my left arm, I'm already saying that's 1 and it's 2.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you're competing, what's the effect? Like because you were a sprinter to begin with.
Yep.
And then bobsled.
Later,
right?
yeah.
I was so excited to talk about bobsledding. I feel like the bobsledding part is just I feel like every kid in Australia is saying cool runnings, and I just think I'm just imagining that's you.
My mum told me that I wore that tape out when I was little of cool runnings, so it's definitely where I got my inspiration.
Oh, was
from.
it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
for
sweet.
Sure. And our team was basically that. Like we were sliding the worst equipment. We had an incident where 1 screw held our whole steering system together on a run, and it only held together because the screw bent.
Wow, this is the real cool runnings.
Yeah, like it was off the chain, very very much the same as cool runnings.
Let's save that. Let's start with your career as a sprinter.
Yeah, competing.
Yeah.
So born with cerebral palsy, affects the whole left side of my body. As I got older, I was a pretty talented athlete to begin with. Like, I'm just lucky. I was competing as an able-bodied athlete in years 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 6. When I got to years, and I was going to regionals and state level for sprinting at able-bodied. So really lucky because back then they didn't have as much school sport focused on Paralympic events. So I was able to stay in the mainstream events. But once I got to high school, I went to a very rugby union focused school, St Joseph's College in Sydney.
Yeah.
And boys were there to play rugby. Right. We have 2 wallabies pretty much consistently come out of every year that graduates.
Yeah.
And I suddenly became into a bigger pond, like a same size pond, I guess, but much bigger fish. And suddenly I was struggling to make the relay team. I still did on and off make the relay team at high school, but went from being very good and comfortable in sprinting to not as great. And it was then that I was looking around and trying to figure out what to do. I went and did some long jump for a bit, and it happened that my coach in long jump was training as a heptathlete for Australia, about Australian level, national level. Mm-hmm. And she was training with some Paralympic athletes and knew. And so when I mentioned it, it triggered in her mind. She went and spoke to her coach and her coach's daughter, and I got involved in Paralympic sport. So when I compete as a Paralympic athlete, I compete in the class T38. And whilst that sounds like alien language to most people, it's pretty simple. In track and field, we have a really good classification system. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's the best one.
T38?
Yeah.
What is T38?
Yeah, so T stands for track, and if I was doing a field event, it would be F. Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Track and field, T and F. And then the 3 is what category of disability I have.
Okay.
Which means I have cerebral palsy.
3 is cerebral palsy as a blanket number.
So the 30s, pretty much, historically, yes, it was all cerebral palsy. Now it's more broadly just coordination impairment.
Okay.
Pretty much similar. So if you're in the 30s, coordination impairment, and then that 8 is the highest number we use. We don't use 9 and 10, or 9. Okay. And so 8's the highest number we use. 8 means the higher the number, the less disabled you are, pretty much. And so I'm the least disabled you can be to be running the 100 meters or to be in track and field with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
Everyone that I race on the day at the Paralympics.
Also T38?
Also T38. So it's as fair as it can be. Okay. There's still a small spectrum, but it's as fair as it can be.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of like the management system for organising Paralympic athletes into fair categories.
Yeah. To make it more muddied, each sport has their own classification system. Swimming, for example, can have an arm amputee racing a leg amputee because it's a functional classification. So they say because the arm amputee is going to be disadvantaged the whole way down the pool, whereas they have a greater push, whereas the leg amputee is going to have a lesser push. It evens out, and they can race together. Yeah. In athletics, we don't race. An arm amputee would not race a leg amputee at the Paralympics. Maybe at a national championships where you don't have enough people to fill a full race. And in that instance, we would race arm amputee, leg amputee, cerebral palsy, vision impaired all together. And whoever gets the closest to their own world record would win the gold medal, not necessarily the person that crosses the line first.
Oh.
Right, so we do a calculation after the race.
So whoever's closest to their own PB.
Their own world record for their category.
Oh.
So when I was explaining the categories and I said T38.
Oh, like not their personal own record, the world record inside their category. Whoever's closest to that number would be the winner.
Yeah, in national events and more local events, because you don't have enough athletes to fill a full 8 lanes of just T38 cerebral palsy athletes.
In local events.
Yeah.
But obviously at the Paralympics, yes? Like when you
at the Paralympics, yes. There's only very minimal in athletics that would combine them. And those combinations are normally, for example, in the leg amputees, double and single amputees, just because historically they never had enough double amputees that would be running. They always thought they would be in a wheelchair. But because technology advanced, then they started getting the people like Oscar Pistorius, Alan Oliveira, that run on double blade systems. Yeah. And they run against the single blades.
Do they have their own category or no?
Now they do, because...
It's like a bladed category?
Yeah, so leg amputees have their own. When I was explaining before, T track, 3 means I have cerebral palsy, 8 is the level I have. Yep. If you go to the teens and go 11s, 12s, 13s, they'll be vision impaired athletes. And same, 10s are completely blind, 13s legally blind. They can walk around by themselves. The higher the number, less disabled they are. They can kind of walk around by themselves and get around the 13s, but they can't drive a car or shouldn't be able to. Okay. Yeah. And then you go to the 20s. They only use 1, and it's T20. It's intellectually disabled athletes. Yeah. Then 30s, like we explained already. 40s would be amputees historically, just amputees. but now I believe they've included short stature into the 40s, and they had to create some extra categories because of the double amputees, arms and legs, and they've put them in the 60s, and then the 50s are historically what people would understand as wheelchair athletes. So, but not those with cerebral palsy.
This is making me instantly just be like, the word ethical is coming up a lot. And it's like, there must be a lot of debates, I would imagine, about, like, in inverted, like, commas, like how disabled someone is. Like, is it kind of like, does it get pretty heated when people, like, between certain disabilities deciding how disabled someone is, or no?
Yeah, so there's a system that they use. You go through classification, and you have to read to classification. As someone with cerebral palsy, like someone that's missing their hand, he's obviously not going to go back and check that it hasn't regrown.
Yeah, true.
Our technology is not that good yet. But for cerebral palsy, for example, I would have to go, I competed for over 19 years, maybe 20 in that same class, but every 3 to 4 years I would have to go back and reclassify just to check that I was still in that same classification, that I didn't bluff my way through before and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not so objective. You're not missing 10 centimeters of a limb. You can show them your brain scan, but that means nothing. Like I said before, everyone's affected differently. So they put you through a bunch of tests. There's a doctor, a physio, and somebody else, I can't remember, in the room. And they put you through a bunch of tests and say, like,
physical tests?
Walk this straight line, jump up and down on the spot, don't bend your knees, but jump, lean over and pick up this ball with one hand, one leg, one hand, same leg, same hand. They have a set of exercises basically to get, and you show them what you can and can't achieve. Yeah. Of course you can cheat, right? It's like any sport.
Oh, true.
Of course you can pretend that you're more disabled than you are. You shouldn't. And not many people do, but it does happen.
True.
It does happen.
And because you could they can't say that you didn't try to get something the way that you can, or... Yeah, wow.
And people obviously can come fatigued.
Yeah.
If I was to go if I was to go and run...
Go and train first and then...
Right. Of course I'm going to be worse, because my disability gets worse as I get tired. I don't have as much control because...
Or you'd want to hope that people don't do that. It sounds so unfair.
I mean, you're there to show them what your disability is. So my personal opinion of it is, you need to show them what you can't do. You shouldn't be trying to show them what you can do. Like,
yeah, true.
You shouldn't be going above and beyond and proving that you're not disabled, because you're going to get kicked out. You need to show them the actual trouble you have to do things.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a blurry line, because how each person or each athlete goes into that, interpreting the ethics of it, is slightly different. And the rules change. So it's not as simple as someone gets changed classification, they were cheating. The rules change. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. I've seen athletes get classified from, let's say, T37 up to T38. And people go, well, you should take all their medals off them because they were cheating. It's like, no, they changed the rules slightly. If you go back and read how they adjusted the criteria, he now falls into that category, and that's just the way it crumbles, right? He used to be in the 37s, and he was breaking world records. Well, now he's got to come compete with us, and he's close to the world record because they're very similar, but he's not quite there.
Yeah, wow.
So it can be unfair as well for athletes if they feel they got ripped off and moved to a category
of course.
that they shouldn't be. But
especially once you've been succeeding so well in one and getting kind of like that fame about you and knowing what you can do in that category and stuff, and then it shifts. Yeah. And you maybe you go to the back of the pack almost, in a way, like it's...
Yeah. And it adds another element of what people don't like to think about it in Paralympic sport, which is a big news piece at the moment with the enhanced games, is people like to think that the Paralympics is obviously drug-free because it's not the same as the Olympics. And I'm like, no, There's cheating, and there's definitely
Same. Still competitive people.
Yeah.
Still people who do anything for the win.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, athletes can be paid a lot of money, if not the same, in some countries for winning a gold medal. The boy that I beat to my gold medals, my 3 gold medals in Beijing, he was paid €75,000 for each bronze medal he got behind me.
Oh, that's all right.
So he would have been paid, I think it was 110 or 120 for the gold. Well, if you were raised in the back streets of some town in Russia, that could have been your only way out. Then the incentive to cheat is almost more.
True. The Olympics doesn't pay you, right? Isn't it not the...
No, it'll be your home
the
federation.
home country, right?
Yeah, your home, normally the government or your home federation.
Yeah, because I remember looking at it at the last Olympics. I was like, well, how's this work? Who pays the athletes?
Yes, the International Olympic Committee has set themselves a great business where they don't have to pay their athletes.
Yeah. One thing that I saw was that each country obviously has different rates as to what that is.
Yeah.
And I could have sworn it was like Singapore or something has like some crazy rate for a gold. And it instantly made me think, is that because they don't get many golds and they really want people to push for it? I would imagine so. But I'm like, apart from like your country comes first at something, like what's in it for the country? Like why is there so much incentive for countries to push for the golds?
That's a really good point. And it's a question that I've been asked a few times. The first time I got asked it, I'll tell you what the question is. I was like, sorry, what? I didn't even know how to answer it, but I then ended up having an answer. I got asked once, and this was pretty late in my career, I'd never really thought about it, was, why do you get paid to be an athlete? And I'm like, I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, why would the government pay for you to be an athlete, to do what you like doing? And I was really like, wow, I never thought about like that before. And luckily I came up with an answer on the spot, but I've bettered it since. And this is how I explain it now. I got paid to be an athlete as a Paralympian, whether you are interested in watching the Paralympics or not, because I am basically an ambassador for the health system when I'm a Paralympic athlete or able-bodied athlete. If I'm out there, if you see the Olympic athletes out there training on Instagram, social media, or you see them in real life sometimes around Newcastle, around Sydney, you're inspired to do something, right? You might go to the gym, or you might join a touch football team. The same for Paralympics, but even on another level is that, well, if that person who's missing 2 legs can get out and compete and train, well, I have no excuse to sit home and wallow on my couch. I should be up at least walking around the block and being active. And for me, I explained it as that is only going to reduce the burden on the health system by inspiring people to be a little bit more active. And I think that's where the value is of having athletes.
So the angle is public health?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not in public health. I don't make the policies, but that's my rationalization in my head.
Wow, I've never ever thought of it like that. I've never asked that question either. I always just thought the money in it was from, like, obviously sponsorships and stuff come alongside that. But that's not from the government. That's from private.
And I've never had a sponsorship in my career.
Is that on purpose?
No. I would have loved to be paid to do it. I just never had a sponsorship because I wasn't an attractive person for a sponsor. If you're gonna choose.
What about when you had your mustache?
Yeah, a little bit more.
That was a great mustache. Yeah. I saw that photo.
But that was the only time I got recognised in my career, was when I had my moustache.
Yeah?
Yeah, because Dylan Alcott, Kurt Fernley, they have a wheelchair, they're sitting in it. So people automatically will recognise them when they're walking down the street. They confuse the two all the time. I know that. But for me, I'm walking next to you, I'm a normal person. Why would anyone recognise me? But after the Gold Coast, when I ran with my moustache, that was the only time that I would get recognised. It was.
You're saying with people with mustaches aren't normal people?
We're all a little strange. And so, going back to the original question, I know we've strayed far. I think the original question was how I got into sport. And so I was just relatively talented as a primary school kid and looking for way to stay involved, and the coach at high school recognized that and got me in touch with the right people, and she actually got me in touch with her coach, Fira Divoskina, who was my eventual coach, or not very eventual, very quickly, coach for the entirety of my career, Irina Divoskina. So, and then from there, I was on a plane to compete overseas, 4 or 5 months later for the first time.
Oh, wow. Just within 5 months.
Oh, yeah. Like, it was super quick because I was talented. I was lucky.
Yeah.
And I was able to compete on the world stage very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so then I spent the next 18 years competing in the Australian Paralympic senior team, and had a lot of success early in my career, not so much late in the later part of my career, but my attention was elsewhere.
Okay, nice. Could you tell me what it's like to be training for it, and then what it's like building up to that race, that really important race? So like, how do you train for it, and then when it comes to that moment, what do you do on the day? Yeah, so my
job was to train. I did university on the side, but it took me 10 years to do a 4-year degree, and you're only allowed 10 years. So I finished with like 2 days to go. Okay. I handed in my assessment, and I handed in my assessment in Florida in the training camp just before we flew to the Rio Paralympics in 2016. I handed in my last assessment so that I could finish my degree.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years to do, and I never failed a subject. I just didn't do any subjects. I was just always traveling, so I was never.
What was your degree you finished with?
I did landscape architecture.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
Yeah. So my job was to train. I trained basically twice a day, 6 days a week. And generally the pressure is not that high. It's the pressure that you put on yourself during training to hit the times that your coach wants you to hit on the track and improve in the gym. But the way that my coach explains how she prepares an athlete to perform on that day in that 11 seconds is really interesting. Analogy in that as we get closer, we have a spring, and the spring, if you can imagine, my hands are about 1 meter apart at the moment, is slowly getting compressed together, centimeter by centimeter, millimeter by millimeter over, let's say, a year. But in those final weeks, it's getting really pushed tight, and it's very hard to hold it together. And that's why a lot of athletes get sick or injured in those last few weeks, because you're trying to hold that spring so tight and push it closer together so that you'll be ready to go on.
At your absolute max.
Yeah, you're at your absolute max, and you've got no fat left on your body because you're trying to cut weight so that you'll be efficient on the day.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to get sick. And you're pushing that spring really, really close together, and then on the day you're going to release the pressure of that spring, and it's just going to go bang. So my wife told me that I'm not a very nice person to be around in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, no.
Before I race, because I'm so focused on what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying not to get sick. Locked in. I'm not trying not to get injured.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly thinking, like, when that gun goes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, because I've got 11 seconds to put what could be 4 or 5. By the end of my career, it was 18 years of work into that 11 seconds of running. So it's pretty stressful, but
I can imagine.
I enjoy living in that stress, hence the bobsled. So yeah, I now in my work try to find things that will give me that same stress.
Yeah. Oh, you're trying to find that now?
Yeah, still. Like doing...
Do you find it?
Yeah. Like last week or 2 weeks ago, I presented at a conference for fire engineers. Well, I'm not a fire engineer.
So like you do more like a public speaking style stress now. You kind of put yourself under the public eye in a different way. Yeah, right.
It's just it's adrenaline stress in the same way. Standing at the start line 15 years ago, standing in a start line would give me that ultimate adrenaline rush of let's go, I'm going to run. Later in my career, it was really hard to get with athletics because I'd done it so many times on such large stages that I'd turn up to a race on a Saturday in Canberra and I'd be like, no one's watching this. Like, it doesn't matter. It does. There is does have consequences, but it's just not the same as being in front of 85,000 people.
Yeah.
And there's TV cameras and everyone's there and they're going to see it if you fall over.
Was that the highest moment of your life, that kind of stuff? Like the I guess like the level you get to when you're locking in for that race with all the crowd there and stuff. Is that one of the like most exciting locked in moments you've ever had?
Yeah, like for me, I think one is that I enjoy running because when I was running, I can't think about anything else because you will fall over. That's just in training. But I guess that goes to another level when you're competing in front of so many people. My mind is like constantly busy. I think like a lot of people. You're juggling so many things, kids, work. Did I lock the door at home? Did I turn the oven off? There's so many things going on, but when you're running, you can't think about all those things. It's actually quite calming.
Yeah.
Even when you're running as fast as you can. And when you go and compete on a stage like the Paralympic Games, that is on another level because you're also trying to perform at your best and you've been thinking about this for 4 years. And that focus is, I enjoyed it. There's athletes that don't enjoy that part and they need a lot of help. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just individual preference. But they go and talk to psychologists and get prepared for that stress. I was doing the training so I could go and live in that stress. I enjoyed that stress. And hence I went and stood at the top of a mountain with 4 guys and said, hey, let's go push off a bathtub and jump in and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because the stress, I enjoyed that. Because as I said before, like after 15 years, athletics, standing there waiting for the gun to go, becomes less adrenaline inducing. And I went for the next step, which was let's go jump off a mountain, in a
So when did you transition to bobsledding? I think we should just talk about bobsledding for a bit.
So I had a really successful athletics career early on. Beijing, I won 3 Paralympic gold medals, 3 world records. London, 2.
Also in the bobsledding?
No.
Oh, okay.
I won 2 in London, gold medals, world records, and not because I lost anything, because there wasn't races to be in. So and then Rio, I got a silver medal only because I entered one race and I got injured in the heats, and so I ran in the final injured. Still really did really well. After Rio, I was supposed to retire. I retired for the first time of 3 times, I think, after Rio. And I was drawn back into the sport by the fact that we had the Commonwealth Games, home Commonwealth Games in 2018 in the Gold Coast.
Oh, yeah, true.
And they were going to put on my event.
Oh.
Because the Commonwealth Games is an able-bodied event. But they put on 2 or 3, maybe 5 maximum athletic events that are for the Paralympic athletes.
Yeah.
The hometown gets to choose what those events are.
And your one was
And of course they want a gold medal, so they're like, hey, what's our most locked in gold medal in athletics?
Yeah.
We'll put Evan on.
Yeah, wow.
So they put my race on and I was kind of drawn back in, even though I'd semi-retired. So I kind of worked for my parents and trained in Sydney, not in Canberra anymore with my coach. I was kind of training by satellite and kind of shifting out of sport, and went to the Commonwealth Games. In that period, I was training at the New South Wales Institute of Sport. My gym, the guy that was looking after me in the gym there, supervising me one day, happened to be Jolt Zumba, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He competed for the Hungarian bobsled team at 2 Olympics before ending his career. I think he had a car crash. And he was helping the Australian bobsled team out at the time with some training. And while I was sitting there on the bike warming up, the Winter Olympics was on, and he was obviously watching it. And the Australian bobsled team came down. And I turned to him. I'm like, hey, you help the team out, don't you? He said, yep. And I said, do you reckon I could make it if I trained for it? And it was just question. Like I was just asking, right, how I would compare to them. And he kind of looked at me, and you could see his immediate reaction was like, he wanted to be like, no, because you're a Paralympic athlete, right? That obviously, that's what would go through his head. And you could see his first reaction was like, and then he was like, oh, hang on, I know Evan. I know how fast he runs. And I know what he lifts in the gym. And he was like, actually, I don't see why not.
So the transferable skill was the speed.
And strength.
And strength.
Yeah.
Which you need to get it going. But then you also need to be a crazy person as well.
A little bit. And so I left the gym and I was just like, man, I wish he said no, because now I have to go and try.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be the guy sitting in a bar when I'm 50 years old and saying, oh, I could have bobsledded for Australia if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to be the guy that said, I tried.
I did.
I tried or I did.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is. Or I did do it. Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about what it's like preparing for your race in the sprint. Let's talk about what it's like going down the hill in bobsledding.
Yeah. It's like the adrenaline rush of sprinting times a million. Because you're standing at the top of the mountain with, depending on whether you're racing the 2-man or the 4-man at the time, 3 other guys possibly behind you that are getting ready to jump in the back of your sled. I was driving. I was the pilot at the front of the sled.
Do you have like a little metallic cage over your head, kind of?
No. You're just sitting in a piece of carbon fiber and
on ice
and
skates.
fiberglass on ice skates, and your head is poking out the top. And you're standing at the top and you're looking at those guys. Everyone has fear in their eyes. If you're not if you're standing at the top of a bobsled run and you're not scared, you're doing it wrong. Like there's always going to be an element of fear, even when you are the best in the world, because something can go wrong, and it does.
Yeah.
And it can end up in injury, and there has been people that died from bobsled. So everyone's there, and you're standing at the top of the track. You have, as the pilot, you have a job to run with the sled, with the boys, jump in, and get ready to drive. And when you drive a bobsled, you have to know what you're going to do on every corner. So there could be 20 corners for the next 1 minute of driving. You might go through 20 corners. And you need to know what you're going to do on a perfect line going into those corners, on a not so perfect line, and if all else fails, how do I get out of this corner without hurting someone? And you need to know what you're going to do on those corners 3 corners ahead, or at least 2 corners ahead.
What's a typical track? Are they always different, or are they standardized?
Yeah, each track in bobsled is different. You prepare. So it's like Formula One, and you would have seen them doing mind runs in Formula One as they prepare, where they sit still, close their eyes, and they pretend they're turning around the corners, and they change gears up and down.
They know the track perfect before they get there.
That's what you do in bobsled as well.
Yeah, right.
You memorize the track in your head. And so when I was ready to drive a track, I could sit in the dark while I was waiting for my kids to go to sleep, and I could have like a random number generator on or whatever on my phone, and I'd think about a track and go, okay, I'm going to do Altenburg in Germany. And I'll click the random number generator and go 9. Okay, on that corner, I need to get on. Now I'm going to sound silly if there's a bobsled driver listening, because I can't remember. But, I need to get on early. I need to get up high, let it, I'm going to hold it down, the steering, so that we create pressure, create too much centrifugal force. And then I'm going to let it go and go really high on the corner. And then I'm going to basically dive bomb out of the corner, so that's the only way to stay upright in corner 9 in Altenburg. You need to know that the physics of the corner before you get on, because when you drive a bobsled, you can't drive on the straight. You have no downforce. You're not a Formula One car. You don't have a wing. So there's nothing pushing you into the track, and you're actually aquaplaning. Your skate is not sharp. It's blunt.
That's right. They're flat. They're more flat, aren't they?
They're round, and they hold water between them and the track. And the more water and less friction you can have, the faster you can go.
Does the water just come up from the track?
Because the ice is melting, right? As you touch it, it's just there's water. You're basically aquaplaning. It's like driving on oil, and you have no downforce because you don't have a wing. So if you're on a straight and you make an adjustment with the steering, it's like driving on oil in a car, or ice. You're going all over the place and hitting the walls. You can't hold it straight. Maybe the best guys can, but I couldn't. I'm not good enough.
Wait, so if you can't hold it straight, but you said you can steer the sled.
Yeah.
If it's just aquaplaning, how does it possibly turn?
Yeah. So when you're on a straight, there's not enough force holding you to the ground, but as soon as you touch a corner, you've got basically. As I said before, I'm not a doctor. I'm also not a physician. I mean, a physicist. But the way I like to think of it, to rationalize it in my head so that I could understand the corners and get through them, is when you hit a corner, you're then going to have two forces acting on you. You're going to have gravity that's pulling you down the track, down the hill, and you're going to have centrifugal force, which is pushing you up the wall, right? On a big corner, a corner could be 100, 150 meters long. It could be a big U-turn, or it could be even a 360-degree turn corner. You come out underneath where you went into the corner.
Oh, wow.
And
big loop, though.
Yeah,
it must
huge.
Be enormous.
You can stand in the middle and film and stuff.
Oh, cool.
And on that corner, there could be anywhere from like 3 or 4 times this happens. There will be points where gravity is winning and it's pulling you down the wall, and points where the centrifugal force is winning and pushing you up the wall.
Oh, wow.
And so when you watch bobsled, you will see, even at the Olympics, you will see on the big corners, the sled will slightly shift up and down in the corner because the centrifugal force and the gravity are basically what I like to think of as fighting, pulling you up and down the wall. And so that can happen 5 times where you go down, up, down, up, down, up across a corner. Your job as a pilot, because you're now on a wall, you have enough downforce because the centrifugal force is gripping you to the wall, you can actually steer.
Oh, wow.
And you're now trying to draw a straight line between those two forces that are playing on you so that you don't hit the roof, you don't hit the bottom because you'll crash, and you draw the straightest line to the finish line.
Yeah.
But the trick there, though, is the more you steer, the slower you'll go.
Oh.
So you'll see, and that's why you can still see when you watch bobsled at the Olympics, the sled is moving up and down because they're trying to draw a nice straight line, but they also don't want to steer too much because that's slowing them down, creating friction. And so if they can get away with it, they'll just let the sled do what it wants to do and kind of guide it towards where they need to be so they don't end up still on the wall at the end of the corner.
So less is more.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. But that's really hard to do, especially for an Australian team, because we just don't get enough time on the ice.
Yeah, I was going to say there's not much ice around here to practice on.
Imagine the amount of time you have to do to have that feeling in your fingers and just know the amount to be.
Yeah. I imagine the sort of like European countries that have snow for a huge amount of time would be the leaders of those sports usually.
Yeah, Germany.
Wasn't it Cool Runnings, isn't it, the Jamaican bobsled team? They never have snow, and that was the whole thing. They practice on hill. What a film. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favour and realise that Evan is living every primary school kid's dream.
Australian primary school kid's dream,
yeah, that's right.
My mum told me I wore out that tape when I was younger, so it got stuck in my head, and I eventually got around to it after sprinting.
So how was your career as a bobsledder? Did you have any success?
Pretty unsuccessful.
But fun though.
Yeah, like, we're sliding the oldest, worst sleds in the races.
Oh yeah.
Right. We are sliding in the Olympic year. I think I spent about 40,000 Australian dollars on my 2 sleds, the 2-man and the 4-man. Well, like the German team is easily spending 100,000 euros on one sled. Right?
Oh, really?
So like you just can't compete. It's like Formula One. The more you spend, the faster you're going to go.
Who's like the top teams, I guess?
Germany, Canada, America, Switzerland, Russia even. It's countries that have access to those colder climates, but also are prepared to fund the sport. And you're only going to be prepared to fund the sport if you've historically done well in the sport. Latvia, again, smaller country, but they've had a really good success rate in the past.
Ah.
So their program is pretty well funded. They've got some of the workshops in the country that build some of the best sleds as well. So they obviously probably get a discount on sleds. Yeah. It's hard as an Australian or a non-European country to be competitive because you just need to spend time there. You need to keep sliding. Every time I went down in Germany, if I went down for training, every time it would cost me 120 euros for a minute of training. So it's very tough to compete. That said, our girls do a lot better.
Yeah.
The Australian girls do a lot better. They're more talented. Easily, I can admit that they're more talented. They're better drivers than I will ever be. But in the monobob, for example, that they only introduced in the last Olympics, they tried to standardise the sleds.
Monobob, is that just one person?
One person, yeah, because the girls only traditionally had two man or two woman sleds, and the boys had two man and 4-man. So it was unfair. The International Olympic Committee likes fairness and parity between the sexes. So they said to bobsled, you need to give the girls another event. And it was very unlikely that they'd get enough girls together from each country to have 4-man or 4 women sleds. And so they went for the monobob instead. But what they did was they standardized the sleds so that you had to buy this particular sled and you weren't allowed to change it too much. So that it stopped the arms race of whoever spends. It didn't stop it.
So it should. In any
flow.
Olympic sport, should be similar equipment.
Yeah, sailing, for example, has a lot of those rules.
Absolutely.
But just like sailing, you have to buy the boat from this manufacturer or the sled from this manufacturer. Then you're only allowed to adjust these things. But in bobsled, like in sailing, you can use your own sail. And I'm not a sailor, so again, could be saying the wrong thing. But you're allowed to use your own ropes and your own sails. So then there is still elements of what is better gear. And in monobob, the girls can still put whatever runners they want on the bottom of the sled, the blades.
Oh, really?
And so a blade is not a blade. The purity of the metal, how hard the runner is, how wide the runner is, how it was crafted, what shape it is, where the weight it sits in the runner, all affects how fast it will be. And so they can still have some impact. Money still has an impact on how fast they can go. So the Australian girls, to be competitive, are doing very well.
Just to divert a little bit, in the Paralympics, is there something that Aussies dominate at?
In the Paralympics?
Like as a nation, do we have like a particularly strong Paralympic team in a certain field or something? Like, is there something that like year after year we're going back and taking often as a
We've
win?
always been pretty strong in athletics.
Yeah.
It is, though, getting harder to be as competitive because technology is improving and Paralympic sport is becoming more widely accepted as a profession. And so you've got more countries taking it more seriously. I would say in terms of teams, probably our wheelchair rugby team, which is male dominated, but we do have some women in it, is very strong. They're always in the medals.
That looks like a brutal sport.
Yeah. They call it murder ball, so it's tough. And then I think both our men's and women's basketball teams are always there or thereabouts. They're very disappointed if they don't get a medal.
Yeah.
And swimming. The same as able-bodied sport in Australia. Swimming we're really strong at it.
Just
because of who we are.
Part of culture,
Part of growing up in Australia is learning how to swim, so we're always going to be good at it.
That's right. It's kind of built into our culture. Let's dive a little deeper underneath all of that. So that's what's happening up on the surface. But I feel like sometimes when we're doing those things and striving for whatever it is we're striving for, sometimes we learn other things in the process, or we take these learnings or these messages from it that we never thought we would. It's kind of like the background learning or like the meta learning, I guess. And I'm wondering for you, between bobsledding, sprinting, all of the training, preparation, all of those moments, what are some of the most important things that you've learned from it? Like biggest takeaways for you?
I think one of the most valuable things I've learned is how to, I guess, compose myself under that pressure. So, one, I enjoy it, which helps. But there is obviously people that are more suited to, once you go into the business world, once you leave sport, to presenting and putting yourself out there in those positions where some other people might not feel as comfortable. And as an athlete in general, most athletes are better prepared to go into those situations because they understand how their body's going to react already. And it's even weird things that you notice as an athlete that you then can pick up early warning signs that you're getting stressed. So I sweat a lot when I'm getting stressed. And so when I was getting ready to race, looked like I've had a bath. Like I was so sweaty because one, I was warming up and I had a tracksuit on and everything. But two, I was stressed. And I know that I sweat a lot when I'm stressed. And so when I'm in a meeting and I start sweating a lot, the other people can't see that, but I'm aware that I'm stressed, and I can kind of change my behavior to try and stop my body from stressing as much. Which, then thinking about my breathing, thinking about calming myself down in my mind, and telling myself there's nothing to be worried about. You're not in a situation where a lion's about to eat you, because your body can easily flip into that fight or flight kind of situation, and anything can trigger that for any person. But being able to understand the early warning signs that you're flipping into that is a skill that a lot of athletes have and don't realize that they have.
So it allows you to catch that moment where you're flipping into a stressful state earlier and start to manage it before it can get too out of control.
Yeah, hopefully. It doesn't work all the time. Still get stressed with my kids.
It's a whole nother story, yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah, and then I think the ability to kind of break your goals down, or at least be on a long path to a big goal for a long time, becomes very natural to athletes as well. You go to training and you don't need to see any improvement in that training session to know that you're still on the path to your competition in 4 years' time. Your next Paralympic Games. That training session will have an impact on that result, but it's very hard to measure. Just the same way that every time you go to work and sit at your laptop, you're going to have an impact on the end of your budget, or getting that project finished, or molding the mind of some young kid as a teacher. Everything you do has an impact. It's just very hard to measure, and athletes are used to that because we are constantly doing things that have such small effect on what we're doing, but in the end it's going to be the performance, and you'll be able to measure a huge impact. Right? Does that make you realize how important each moment is when you're working on any goal or anything in your life as well? Yeah, and I did some presenting about goal setting when I was during COVID online, just to make some money and stuff. And I tried to think about how I go about my goal setting. It was a bit of a difficult project because I had to try and talk about what was in my mind and how I go about it. One thing that I definitely used, which when I went to bobsled, was it was a really scary goal that I wanted to go to the Olympics in bobsled. I didn't go. I missed out by 2 spots in the world rankings, but I did make it to a world championships. I came second last because the guy that was supposed to win, he crashed. So. I beat him.
Claim it.
Yeah. And so when I started bobsled, I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to be the first Paralympian that went to the Olympics in a different sport, because we'd had some, Oscar Pistorius who went in athletics, we've had some swimming, table tennis, but we've never had someone switch sports and master a new sport and go to the Olympics after they've been to the Paralympics. And so I wanted to do that. I didn't do it, but it was a huge goal. And you kind of start out and you're like, oh my God, I should really just not start this because it's too hard. And one of the things I did was I tried to think about what I was actually scared of, like why I didn't want to do it, what was the negative thoughts that were stopping me from doing it, and writing them down. And so things like, well, what if you don't make the Olympics? You've wasted all that time. And next to that I could put, no one's going to give a shit. No one's going to care if I don't go to the Olympics. I'm a Paralympian trying to go to the Olympics. The only story is going to be if I do make it to the Olympics. There's not going to be a story about me missing out. That's expected. And then, things like, oh, well, I'm going to waste 4 years of my life trying to do this. Well, hang on, I'm going to move to the Czech Republic where my wife is from and hang out with her family for 4 years. My kids are going to get to learn the language before we come back and start going to school in Australia. And then you start to understand that there is not a lot holding you back. It's misperceived fear. The fear of failing, to not make the Olympics is like, well, it's actually not a fear. That everyone doesn't make the Olympics, except for the 10, very few amount of people that actually get to the Olympics.
So it helped you to point and call your negative thoughts and beliefs and then rationalize them. Writing it down was useful for you to look at it outside of your mind and then rationalize how is that affecting me?
Yeah. Why am I thinking like that? Why should I not think like that? And what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't lift the weights? Whatever. Well, I could just go and check on Instagram what the boys that were in the last team could lift and how fast they could run. And suddenly I'm like, well, I can do that. So why am I worried about not being actually physically good enough? Well, I'm as good as the last Australian team. Well, okay, they were stronger than me, but I could run faster than them, most of them. And then the other thing that I learned and tried to explain to people when I was doing the presenting was that I was quite good naturally. I didn't try to do it. No one taught me to do it, but at breaking my goal down, the goal that I wanted, breaking it down into very achievable steps. That's not rocket science. Everyone does that. That's the first thing you'll learn if you go online and you want to learn about setting goals. They'll say, I'll break them down into small steps. Yeah, cool. Whatever. That doesn't really help. What I would do is I'll break it down even further to something that was almost unmeasurable, but also almost to the point where it's like funny, like comedy, because then it's so easy to achieve, right? So I think I had 1 year to go before the Beijing Paralympic Games, and no one told me to do it. I just went and did it by myself. I sat down and I wrote down what time I wanted to run. I wanted to be the first person with cerebral palsy to run under 11 seconds for the 100 meters. And at the time I ran something like, I'd just broken the world record already at 11:35, I think I ran. So 0.35 of a second doesn't sound like a lot to most people.
It's a lot on 100 meters.
But on 100 meters, we're moving at maybe roughly, let's say 11 meters a second. So it's a good couple of meters that you've got to improve by in a year. And a lot of people, I'd said that I wanted to run that time, and some people had laughed. But what I did is I took that time and I wrote it down at the top of the page. Then I tried to figure out how many training sessions I had between now, a year out from the games, and racing at the games. And so I went, okay, well, I normally train Monday twice a day, Tuesday once a day, Wednesday twice a day, Thursday, and figure it out by week. Well, I'm going to miss some sessions from flying. I'm going to do this, and figure out, okay, roughly I have this many sessions to go before I get to the Paralympic Games. I need to improve by 0.36 of a second. Divide that 0.36 of a second by how many training sessions I'm going to have.
Yeah.
Okay, suddenly I don't need to improve by 0.3 of a second. I need to improve by 0.0001 of a second every time I go to training.
Yeah.
That's easy. All I have to do is turn up.
Yeah.
right? Suddenly the pressure's gone. I just need to go and do what my coach tells me. I don't need to do anything special. I don't need to go when my coach tells me to run. Now I can't even remember what times I need to run at training, but let's say I'm doing a 150 meter sprint and she gives me a time. That time would be, now I don't even know because I never paid attention. Let's just make up a number, 17.5 of a second. Let's aim for this exact time in training. You're going to do it 5 times. A lot of athletes will, or people in general, will take that goal and they'll go, I want to go to the gym and I want to bench press 80 kilos 5 times, for 5 sets today. And they do the first one and they go, oh, I did it. Okay, well, I'll put 85 kilos on, 90 kilos on and see what I can do. That wasn't a thing when you only had to improve by 0.0001 of the second. You didn't need to put the extra 10 kilos on. You didn't need to run any faster than the time you were given. You just get through the session, go home, and you've done your job.
Yeah.
So then you start stringing together more consistent training and more consistent gym sessions for someone in the general population because you're not overextending your body. You're not trying to outdo yourself all the time because you've got this huge goal that you feel is impossible to achieve unless you're out achieving all the time. You suddenly make it very achievable, and it's just about consistency and turning up.
And you feel stoked because you've got the win you were looking for that day.
Yeah. And the other way to look at that is, let's say you're trying to learn Spanish. You already know it, but, and you're using Duolingo. I don't know if that's any good for it, but let's say you set up Duolingo. It asks you, how many minutes a day do you want to do? Well, everyone starts and goes, I'm going to do 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, they go for the max.
It's not the 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's a hard goal.
It is. That's a lot.
Whereas if you click the 5 minutes, and as soon as you wake up in the morning, you do 5 minutes, you've already achieved it. You then have the opportunity to do another 5 minutes before you go to bed at night. And you've done, put no effort in, but you feel like you're getting so consistent and you're achieving all the time. So you're tricking yourself by making it really easy, breaking it down as far as you can. Yeah. You're tricking yourself into positively thinking about it.
Yeah. Reminds me of that 1% theory where you just better things by the tiniest margins all the time rather than trying to do big things. Just do the most mini gains consistently and it ends up, turning into this really large growth. I love that one. And I think, to be honest, when I learned Spanish, it was something pretty similar as well. It wasn't that I sat down. There was definitely times where I did sit down for a really long time, but it was mostly from the short amount of time that I would listen in the car on the way to work or something, but every day. And then at one point you're just oh, I understand all this or something. It just conglomerates into this one block of it, skills or power or knowledge or whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's the way forward with goal setting for sure. Let's finish this first section with a question that I just don't know anything about it, but I feel like when I've heard little things about it, I've been feeling I don't know, just curious as to what it's like. So obviously at all of these big events, lots of people go to them and you'll kind of stay, from what I understand, it's kind of almost like a dorm setup in a way. In my mind, I'm envisioning this really fancy, cool, modern college dorm where all of the athletes live. Obviously, I think it's with your teams, or is it within events, or I don't know how it works. Could you explain what the athletes' village is like and what's the energy like in there? What do you get told when you get there? What is it all about? What's the athletes' village?
So traditionally, athletes' villages for an Olympic or a Paralympic Games were purpose-built for that event to keep the Olympic movement alive and the cost down. That's evolved over time. Now, often they will create a new housing development of 1,000 new units in different towers, and they will eventually be sold as units, but they are very sparsely fitted out when we get there. And so it is more like just a dorm. You go to a central place to eat and everything, but you live in an apartment with a single bed in each room, or maybe some rooms have 2 single beds, so you're sharing with teammates. And generally in athletics, because I had a training squad that I trained with on a day-to-day basis, that were all going to the games. There was 4 of us at any one time. We would end up in a unit together, maybe with some extras from athletics as well.
Yeah.
At a Paralympic Games. World Championships is slightly different in that they don't build a purpose-built village for World Championships. They just put us in hotels around the city. They do deals with hotels. They get cheap, and they say, hey, Australia, here's a list of hotels you can stay at. Choose which one you want to do. They go on a reconnaissance mission, try and pick a hotel that's comfortable, that has decent gyms nearby, or a really good hotel gym, but they're not normally good enough for us. Close enough to the track that we're not traveling hours every day. And so that's slightly different. And the other option that there's more and more of, LA will be the same, and the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, because of COVID and the delays in building the village there, was the same. They now will take over a university and kick all the students out of the accommodation and just use that accommodation. And that's the way forward. As much as I've heard athletes complaining about it, it's like, oh, well, it's not new and it's not purpose-built and whatever. Hey, you want countries to be able to afford to hold the Olympics? This is the way forward. Like, we can't just be building new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But whether it's the student accommodation, or the purpose-built facilities, or purpose-built in the sense that they'll be sold off as private units afterwards, yes, there is a area where everyone is staying, and a central dining hall where we all go to eat, every country.
Oh, wow.
So it does create a pretty cool atmosphere, but I can't talk to the Olympic Village. I sadly didn't make it, but the Paralympic Village is a pretty cool place, because for me as a 17, 18-year-old going into the Paralympic Village for the first time, it was pretty eye-opening. Right, you're going into this village where there's so many disabled people, so many people that are more disabled than you, and a lot of them from what we would, I guess, call underprivileged countries, coming from such a place like Australia. But just the ingenuity of how those people live their lives is pretty crazy. Like, in my first Paralympic Village, I saw a guy eating with a knife and fork who had no arms. He was using his feet.
Wow.
And like, I thought, being 18 at the time, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And I was laughing. But now I look back and I'm like, holy moly. Like, that is cool, right? To see that as an adult, you would like, that's a whole different way of thinking about things, right? We just take for granted we use our hands. Then you go outside, and on the way to the dining hall, you see 4 people, one at the front and the rest of them standing behind each other, like a relay team, all with one hand on each other's shoulders, and they're walking in a line because they're all vision impaired, and they've put the least vision impaired guy at the front, or a person that doesn't have a vision impairment is helping them. Yeah. One of their guide runners or something is standing at the front, and they're all following him to the dining hall with one arm on the next guy's shoulder. So there could be a line of like 4 to 10 guys just walking in a line, all following each other, having no idea basically where they're going, trusting the person in front to take them to the dining hall. Just like, yeah, it's because you get to judge your own life then off, and how easy your life is of other people's day-to-day struggle. And they don't see it as a struggle. That's just for them. If you talk to them, like, yeah, I'm blind, whatever.
Yeah. So it was actually going there was kind of a contrasting moment for you. You got a personal reflection from it.
Yeah, I think most people that enter a Paralympic Village do. It's crazy. Like, and you talk to physio and medical staff that'll join you on their first trip, and they're just like walking around the dining hall going, oh my God, what is going on? But it also shows you the element of people that are willing to to devote their lives to helping those people. There's a guy in America, Jerome Avery, and he was one of the top sprinters in America, from what I understand. Like, I've seen races where I'm pretty sure, you know, the race Maurice Green, when he used, talking to a person that's not from athletics, so you might not know.
Maybe not.
Maurice Green is famous for breaking the world record in the 100 meters, but he's also famous for a race where he put his shoes out afterwards with a fire extinguisher.
What do you mean?
As a joke, like, oh, my feet are so hot that I need a fire extinguisher. He got it out of the crowd and put his feet out. Like,
it's a good move.
Jerome Avery was in that race.
Yeah.
American sprinter. And he went to Olympic trials and, from what I understand, didn't make the team, didn't make the relay team, just missed out. And someone came up to him and goes, hey, man, you just missed out on the Olympic Games. This is going into Atlanta, I think. Would you ever think about going to the Paralympics as a guide runner? And he was like, sure, yeah, why not? And he's still a guide runner today.
Really?
Yeah.
What does a guide runner do?
Like
Do they run in front?
Yeah. No, they run next to.
Next to vision impaired runners?
So they have a tether, which is basically a shoelace that's been tied together at the two ends. So it's a loop. And the vision impaired athlete holds one side of that, and the guide runner holds the other. In the sprints, that's definitely what happens in the distance races. In the sprints, they don't have to hold the tether. But they run next to them. And if you just look up, for example, David Brown, 100 meters, vision impaired, on YouTube, you'll see David running with Jerome. And if you can get some of the sound, which it is there on YouTube, you can hear him talking. So he's running a sub 11 second for the 100 meters with his head turned, talking to him, saying, drive, drive, drive. All right, we're in front. Get up tall, stand up. Or someone's coming back at you. Push, push, push.
While he's running and getting sub 11.
Yeah. So real talented dude. And his whole life basically has been, since that moment, been devoted to maintaining his own speed so that he's able to run alongside other guys. And he's had multiple athletes come in and run next to him, and he just takes it on and keeps doing that. Like,
wow.
Going back to the Paralympic Village, you can then go and get to see those people that are devoting their lives to helping those other people achieve their goals.
Wow.
So it's pretty awesome place.
That's special. Wow. No, it makes me feel kind of teary. It's like it's quite inspiring just to hear like that you can. I like the idea that you can find causes that are so impactful for you that you just decide that you want to stick with them, and they're not causes that are necessarily just for you. Like they're to help others. I think it's really special. I think that's a nice note to maybe finish the first part of the podcast on. We've talked about your Paralympic story, your attempt at the Olympic story through bobsledding, living the dream in the Australian bobsled team, and the village, of course. I'll be honest, the answer that you've given was not in any way what I was expecting, and I'm glad.
You think there's going to be an orgy or something?
I was hoping for the orgy, yeah.
I think there probably is in parts, but I was probably too busy focusing on trying not to get sick and sitting in my room and obviously had my wife as well for most of my career.
There you go.
And so didn't need to be involved in that stuff.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. People think you're in the village and it's party time. Well, it's not party time until you finish racing.
Yeah.
You know, it depends when you're in your race is. It could be the last thing on the schedule.
Is athletics first or last?
Generally, athletics. In the Olympics, athletics is the second week because the stadium is normally used for the opening ceremony. Mm-hmm. They need to pack up the opening ceremony before athletics can start. And swimming is normally the first week.
Yeah.
I think they're going to change it in LA.
Yeah.
They want to do some different stuff. Paralympics, whole different kettle of fish, I guess, logistical nightmare in that at the Olympics you have a 100 meters for men and a 100 meters for women, heats, semis, finals, right? Already you're starting to see there's a lot of races just to make that 100 meter final. But because you might have 10 heats 4 semis, whatever. Well, imagine doing that, but just for cerebral palsy. You're going to go the T32 athletes, the T33 athletes, T34 athletes, T35 athletes.
Well, getting it organised.
You have to go arm amputees, leg amputees, wheelchair. So it just becomes time, too much time to run so many events. And in the Paralympics, you have 2 weeks to do the Paralympics. Athletics runs from day 1 to finish. Well,
wow.
As soon as they can pack up the stadium and get it ready for athletics.
Yeah. Oh wow. So it takes a lot longer, and it's logistically very difficult to organise the Paralympic events.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like your answer to the Athletes Village question better, to be honest. As much as I would have loved to hear the other version as well, I just think also that I actually feel a lot more that changed my perspective of what it's like there. Obviously, I sort of thought about it and thought, like, people aren't there to mess up 4 years of training as well. Like, they're not just going to go. I bet there's stories of people who do get there and have too much fun straight away and kind of like that they blow it sort of thing.
Yeah, someone misses their event because they forgot what time they were supposed to be in call room, and suddenly there's 4 years of work going down the drain.
Oh, that would be the worst thing ever.
You miss call room, and if you're not there on time at the the cutoff time, 6 o'clock at night or whatever it is that you're supposed to be there, if you arrive at 6:01 or 6 and 30 seconds, they just go, "Nah, man, you're disqualified, sorry." And that happens. I've been there when it's happened. It hasn't happened to me.
That'd be soul destroying.
My coach was too on it. But yeah, they do give out free condoms.
Thank you for listening to the first part of our interview with Evan. Come along and join us for part 2 next Monday, and let us know what you thought online or in the comments. Next, if you're a star, why not leave some for us wherever you're listening? This genuinely helps us to get discovered by new listeners, and is kind of like saying thank you in the podcast world. In other news, Between Views is always looking for collaborators. If you want to join the team and create something together, or if we can help you on your project, then please reach out on Instagram. Finally, if you know someone who deserves to be interviewed or just have some feedback, then send us an email at betweenviewsbv@gmail.com or message us on Instagram. Thanks again, and see you soon. Between Views.